Hi, Renee.
Hey, Renee.
And welcome, Renee and everybody else. I'm Barb Solomon, and I'm here with my friends Mary, Chelsea, Julie, and Renee. And this is Talks on Tuesday. We'll be with you for about a half an hour. People may be trickling in as we get going, or perhaps not. You can watch us later on YouTube if you'd like, and be sure to like us. So every week we talk about different things that are kind of spiritual, metaphysical, supernatural. And today we're going to talk about Rupert Spira. I just received his book, I Am Always I, and I've been reading another one of his that didn't come with this one for some reason. I ordered it. It's called The Art of Peace and Happiness. And I think Chelsea has another a book of his or not. Yeah. And what's that one called, Chelsea? You are the happiness you seek. Yes. So he's got a very nice way of bringing us back to kind of our center being. And I got another one who's joining us. Welcome. So I thought what I'd do is just give a little bit of an intro and then take us into kind of a welcome, Darren. And you're here just in time because we're talking about Rupert Spira and his talent, I guess I would say, of reminding us that what we experience now is experience. It's not really our total being of I am. He calls it aware presence, and there's different terms for it: love, God, the universe, all that is. But that it's always available to us. And but before we get started with, I thought I'd get us to kind of get centered and read a few pages out of this book, I Am Always I. But before we do that, does anybody else have anything they'd like to share?
I totally do, but not yet. I'm going to wait till you're done.
Okay, that sounds good. Okay, so why don't we then take a moment to just kind of get settled, become aware of ourselves, our place in the universe, our physicality, maybe our breathing, if that helps us to relax. This book is dedicated to the child and us all. And it starts, I am not always happy. I don't always feel free. I am not always lonely, but I am always me. I am not always naughty. I don't often feel shy. I am not always hungry, but I am always I. Let's just sit with that for a moment. I am always I. What does that remind you of or bring to your forefront?
It reminds me of a river flowing, and it flows and things flow in and things flow out. Your experience changes. Your experience improves, your experience declines, your experience improves again, but you're just always flat-footed standing on the bank of that river.
And the river continues.
Yeah.
Flat-footed unless you have high arches like I do. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
Yeah. Yeah, as I listen to it, what it does is it disappears the you, the other. And it's that sense of otherness that leads us to comparisons and judgments. And if just I am I, and you sit with that, you're not in a space to do those I want to say bad things like be judgmental, but it's almost impossible if you're in the I am I.
What came up for me was the word veiled or veiled, that we are, you know, our I is veiled, and our experiences come and go. There's a beginning and an end, but we are always I underneath all of that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought of too when I read this book. And I'll just hold it up. That I love the illustrations. It's hard to show you every page. The book itself is a little large, and so it's a little awkward to navigate in front of my camera. But yeah, I like you, Julie. I thought of each page talked about an experience. I am hungry, or I'm not hungry. I am lonely, or I'm not lonely. I'm this, or I'm that. But in the end, we are what we are, and that's that infinite part of us that doesn't really change.
Never changes or ends or begins because it's already there. Yeah.
Yeah, we always are what we are, but what is that? And you know, from reading Rupert Spira, I know he likes to lead us towards that I am is however you personally define it, but it could be God, love, or source, or you're just your innate peaceful joy. So I am, what is that? You know, it's like, well, there is something there that maybe is unchanging.
Mm-hmm.
And really undefinable.
Yeah.
Take a look at some pictures of yourself as an infant, as a little tiny baby, and then you get a totally different perspective of the presence.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of mind-boggling when I think about it, because it's taken me 60 plus years to just be who I am. That's extraordinary, you know, and it's so simple. Had someone told me 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago that just being was all I needed to take care of, boy, life could have been really different. Really different.
Yeah.
I've
I
said
know,
that
Renee.
so many times to myself as well. Thank you, Renee. It's so true.
I did it much quicker than you, Renee. It only took me 49 years.
You're so lucky.
I probably win in this. Yeah.
It's interesting. We start that way. In
Right.
babyhood, that's all there is. And we're taught that what's important is acting, reacting, behaving, following commands, what others will think of us, models to follow. And it's little wonder we're so confused.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I remember back when I was in high school hearing, just go with the flow. And I loved that, but I didn't totally understand how to do it. It sounded great.
Yeah.
Made sense, but knowing how to actually step up and just do it.
Yeah.
Well, high school, it was reminding me of high school as well. I took Latin because I liked the teacher, but I am in Latin is expressed with just one word, sum, which is where we get our English word sum. It's the sum of all. And in Latin, the word I is rarely expressed. It's usually just part of the verb, but the word for I is ego.
Mhm.
And that concept kind of followed me. And I really wish English had like one word to express this. And then I started thinking like, am, am this, am that. Am sounds a lot like Om. So connections, I guess.
I always think about how what we were talking about just a little bit ago about how we are so indoctrinated in certain concepts, you know, and perceptions and stuff like that. And if only we had the kind of childhood where we were exposed to other things like meditation or whatever, or LSD. That's what the guy talked about, Barbara.
Right,
That
right, right.
guy,
Yeah.
that LSD and how it opens your mind and it's like so expansive. Anyway. Yeah.
That's right. I remember you saying, "Oh, I want to take that." No, that was
And it was-
Mary.
No, that wasn't
And we're
me.
referring to a video that we watched on, it was a short video on YouTube, and I can't even remember the interviewer's name, but it was, or the interviewee's name, but it was really interesting on, mind and consciousness, and where your brain is compared to where your mind is, and your consciousness and being, and what is your brain.
Yeah. And he was all about LSD. I mean, he really liked that and thought that was a way to, you know,
Well, having been a child of the 60s, I can say that it was really very interesting. It
I
really
mean,
does open your mind a lot, at
Yeah,
least in my case. It helped me to understand things that, I don't know, it helped me understand the world a little differently, I guess.
Well, I was busy in a girls' school. I didn't get that experience.
I was a little afraid of LSD, so I think what I took it in London, I remember, and I was floating through the trees. That was really nice.
Yeah.
But I didn't take a lot, so.
Yeah. Well, it like a number of other things was an experience, and
Yeah.
it just was one experience that helped to open us to a little bit more than just the physicality of this world that we see on a daily basis. And that's another thing that reconnective healing does, and I don't mean to keep saying this as a pitch for reconnective healing, but it's just one of the things I love about it is it also helps to open me to the knowing of this unlimited part of, gosh, I can't even explain my being, our being, all that is, that we're not.
Without
It's like
being
a return to being. We're stepping out of this everyday persona and returning to being, which I love.
Yeah, you guys, thank you for that. That is this whole conversation and those, both your comments specifically, totally leads me into where I was at when I saw your topic for today, and I ended up, of course, being able to join.
Yay.
And so I wanted to share, and this is along the lines of everything that's been shared already. I feel like, we're talking about the toggling, right? The toggling that happens between this experiential and the non. And I just want to highlight, I guess, what that process most often these days, with the world happening the way it is, looks like for me. And it's often I'll get, an email from a nonprofit organization, or I'll see experiential stuff online. It may be the result of the wars, and just the intensity of experience that human consciousness is bringing to this planet, and all living systems right now. So what I see being experienced will often trigger me emotionally, often intensely emotionally. And I just go, no experience defines any being. Like, that's the only thing for me. That's like my emergency urgent care vibe that I go to.
Yeah.
No experience defines any being. I bring those beings into my heart, the specific ones that I'm seeing on my screen. And there I am, right smack into oneness. It takes me right to oneness. and it's balancing and it's relief and it's stability all at the same time. And it's powerful. And then sometimes I just feel like, oh, God, is this enough? Like, I wish things were better. I don't get to do that. That's judgmental. So anyway, I do this multiple times a day, every day without fail. And I have been for the last few years because of what I've learned here. Same as you all.
Yeah.
And
Thanks
I'd
for
like to do it more often when I receive news about joy and abundance. Oh, so anyway, I love this discussion. Thank you.
Earth is such a hard place to go to school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like being in a really repressive boot camp.
Yeah.
It's like, don't worry, be happy. But here are all these people in pain, and it's difficult.
I wouldn't be able to go through this time, I don't think, if I hadn't come across this community and this group, and all the ancillary folks that feed into it. I just wouldn't be able to do it. It hurts too much.
Well, that's a beautiful share, and thank you so
Yeah.
much for the reminder that there are some tools, some things we can do. And I agree with you. I've been reading this book that took place in the late 60s, and it toggled back and forth between the late 60s and then the 90s in the South, in Mississippi, during all this civil rights, and to me that is hard reading, and some of the just horrific things that happen down there if you happen to be a person of color, or
Yeah.
and it's just, again, it's like it hurts my heart to read that. And like you, Darren, I was able to just find that center. I woke up at 3 this morning thinking about that story, that book, and it's like, wait a second, this is not all that is. I am, and it's
Yeah.
Now, Chelsea has muted herself because she has some dogs who want to contribute.
Oh.
But she has a quote here from the Rupert Spira book that she's reading that I'm going to share with you. Awareness is not changed by the content of experience, but the content of experience is progressively changed by the peace of awareness.
That's nice.
Nice. It's lovely.
yes.
Yeah. Thanks, Chelsea.
Yeah, thanks, Chelsea.
That's
And
good.
yeah, that it is. It's just those little snippets of just profound wisdom that can bring us back to what's really important, this day-to-day stuff.
I just put it into the general chat so you can copy it if you want to keep it. It's really a nice. As an former English teacher, that is a great sentence.
Right.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. And I'm just going to go back to the book for a minute. I'm not always sleepy. I don't often cry. I'm not always messy, but I am always I.
Yes.
Just these simple phrases that help us to remember there's always stuff happening around, but the I think of it as the center, but maybe it's, bigger than that. Maybe it's an expansion, or it's, it's so hard to describe.
I know, and yet we continue to try.
Yeah.
We never stop.
Trying.
Yeah.
It never gets old. Maybe try is not the right word, but we continue to do it.
Yeah.
Because it feels right. It feels
Well,
true.
But we want to share this with others, and language is one of the only tools we have. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mary, I don't know how much time we have, but Mary, one thing I'd love to get into maybe for next time or whenever, you were talking about Latin and language, and I recently discovered the Lakota, and probably most Native American people their language is strictly about relationship between this and that, and there's no objects, there's no nouns, I think it was. I
Wow.
have to go back and look at that. I chatted with Lexi about it extensively because it had touched my heart so deeply, and it made me realize that there are many languages, English included, that are just naturally sort of about separation and sort of naturally abusive.
Yeah.
And I've
Mm.
often felt uncomfortable speaking this language, and I never knew why. And I always feel harsh when I'm talking English, like I don't like the sound of my voice. And it's been weird. And when I discovered this, I was so excited. And it's much too late for me to go and hang out with a Lakota and learn how to speak Lakota. I'm terrible at other languages. I don't know how this is going to play out for me,
Next
but
time.
I love exploring that concept.
Well, it's interesting. The spiritualities we are so often drawn to come from Asia or from the Native American spirituality, and their languages are very different.
Hmm.
There's something called the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis that posits that the language we use goes a long way in creating our reality.
Absolutely.
Totally. Yes, totally. Yeah,
The
yes.
thing that anchored it, which was a big highlight for me, was the concept of M equals MC squared, which Albert Einstein is famous for discovering. He didn't discover it. Not only did he not discover it, but the way he presented it was impossible to understand. The Lakota had been doing it for years, and the way that they define it is so about living systems and relationships, and it's very heartfelt to receive, and it blew me away. And I went right to Lexi. I was like, oh my God, Lexi. She goes, I know.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that some of these people did not have a written language, and I used to think that was a deficit. But I think once it's written, it's in stone, and people pick it up and they learn it, and they don't think beyond it. And they're in their experience. They're not setting their experience in typeface that doesn't change over time.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right. Have you read the book Braiding Sweetgrass?
Oh,
Yeah.
I've
What's it
heard of it
called?
several times.
What's it
Haven't
called?
read it yet, but yeah, it keeps coming into my
Great.
life and my awareness.
Yeah, you've got to read it. It's called Braiding Sweetgrass, and it
Yeah.
is,
Secret.
yeah, fantastic. And that talks a
Yeah.
lot about those connections in the language and
Yeah.
just the way that a lot of indigenous tribes do live with the connection to the earth.
Mhm.
And
I think that's a great idea for a future topic. One thing I'm going to be doing in a couple of weeks, and I wanted to give you kind of a heads up, is to ask you to bring next time I'm on, which is probably in 2 weeks, and I'll put a reminder on Facebook, etc. But I want you to bring something physical that means something spiritual to you, something you've maybe kept. I have a little Buddha I've had for a long time.
Hmm.
And or it could be a painting, it could be anything that triggers a spirituality. See if that will come to you.
Yeah, I like that idea.
A spirituality or
Something of the heart, it could be emotional.
okay, that's what I want to
Something that
know.
ordinarily anybody would put in the goodwill pile, but you just can't let go of it, you know.
something that connects you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. Well, we have about 5 minutes left, so any last thoughts about this topic and thinking again about just what we're talking about or what you were talking about, Mary, as far as bringing something physical that connects with your heart. It almost seems like it's an experience, but that connection is something that maybe leads us to that sacred space of getting us to almost that all that is, helping us to
Mhm.
a reminder of that, if you will.
Hmm.
You know. And some people do those types of things, I think, through ritual.
Mhm.
In fact, I was watching a TV show the other day, Mary, you were asking me, it's called The Unorthodox.
Yeah.
And we only watched one episode so far, but the people would, when they'd walk through a doorway in and out of a house, the front door, they would touch this little thing called a mezuzah that's on the door, and they're kind of kiss it and touch it. And there's a little message inside there, probably some little scripture. I don't know for sure, but I think that is kind of a ritual, a part of a way of connecting with this spiritual realm, with reminder of that there's so much more than us. Although when I watch those people walk through the door and just do it kind of routinely, it's like, does that even have any real meaning anymore to them,
Right.
Like if you're Catholic and you do the sign of the cross, before you know it, it's
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think it does. I think it just becomes powerfully subconscious at that point. That's my
yeah.
sense. Like for me, it's starting to become powerfully subconscious to just toggle several times a day. I've never done that in my life. And yeah, it's good.
And it's nice when you can do that and be aware. I think that awareness is the
Mhm.
key, instead of just routinely, rotely kissing the mezuzah or doing the cross or whatever, without having the meaning. It's that triggering of the awareness that you're referring to that, makes it meaningful, I think.
Yeah. I feel like this ties into, somebody brought up the imagery of ourselves when we're little babies.
yes.
And I immediately thought of there were wars going on when I was born.
Yeah.
And I was receiving them before I was born. I was receiving them when I was 6 months old. And I'm still receiving them. And is it better? Am I closer to receiving them like I was when I was a baby now? I don't know. That was just a question. I'll have to think about that.
Yeah.
Am I less judgmental now? Have I returned to that? Yeah, the answer is yes. The yes just came to me. But it's an interesting question. And boy, those baby pictures are cute.
Maybe we'll bring those too.
Yeah.
It don't even have to be my baby pictures. When I see anyone's baby picture, I feel like it's me. It's so
Yeah.
funny. We look so similar, when we're babies.
Yeah. Although sometimes you can look in a baby's eyes and they're so deep, they just,
Oh my God.
You
They're
know.
like animal eyes when we're
Yeah.
babies. It's like looking into a big horse's eyes, that glass.
I think your grandbaby has those eyes, Chels.
Yeah.
He's got,
Oh.
he takes the greatest pictures and his
That
eyes
is the
are,
cutest baby I've ever seen in my life. I'll have to say.
yeah.
I've seen some cute babies.
Yeah.
Ugly babies too, but
Wow, I need to see a picture of this baby.
He's cute.
Okay, next time. And
Yeah.
guess what? I have a second grandson on the way,
Oh, wow.
That's so exciting.
due in May.
all righty.
It's time, you guys. Thanks so much. It's been a beautiful discussion with you. I really appreciate everyone showing up. Time for the music to get going and us to get going also. So
Love you all.
see you next week.
Bye.
Thanks for joining us,
everyone.
Darren. Glad you could make it today. And you too, Renee. Take care. Have a good week.